win. It just didn't work out.
He definitely tried, especially with his opening choice in the early middle game. He had some pressure, but Magnus, he's the world champion for a reason. He knows how to defend these difficult positions, and he just locked things down. He kind of curled up into a ball, rock solid, and there was no way through. Right. Not much else to be said. It was just a solid play by both sides.
Well, we're going to jump into Game 2 between Erik Hansen and Andrey Esipenko. The first game ended in a draw. They are tied. Erik here with the white pieces. And is his image frozen, or is he in extreme deep thought?
I think that's just a picture.
Is that what it is?
Well, either that or he might be dead. I mean, like, someone...
No, he looks like a Jedi master or something.
Yeah, very impressive.
Well, it's a nice picture then. Instructive. And what's happening in this game? 21 moves into it.
Yeah, the position is still relatively balanced. Just doing a quick count of material. It's level material, level pawns, level pieces, but the theme of the day is isolated pawns, isolated queen's pawns. If you look in the centre of the board, black's pawn in the middle there has no support by other pawns. So that pawn, a long-term target, as we mentioned in the other game. But in return, black does have the bishop pair. So actually, a lot of similarities to the game we just came from, just with colours reversed this time. Black is the one with the isolated pawn.
I mean, I'm very optimistic when I'm attacking, and maybe over-optimistic, but I have to say, I mean, I'm quite surprised by the computer's assessment, because these knights that white has hovering around the black king and the queen, just count how many pieces white has. He has the queen, the two knights, maybe a rook and bishop. It looks really scary for Esipenko here. There's always a sacrifice you have to watch out for. I'd be feeling extremely optimistic if I was white here. So I think this is a possibility for Erik here. I mean, he's got a decent attacking position, and he's got this isolated pawn in the ending in some cases. So I prefer white, just looking at it.
Yeah, I agree. I slightly prefer white as well. This game, OK, now we've just seen some trades, bishops coming off, rooks coming off, but this game originated from the Italian opening, and I've analysed this exact variation, and I was always surprised as well, Simon. White's position always looks so nice, so pleasant, but the computer always says 0.0 or 0.1, and it's so frustrating. So, yeah, maybe we ignore the evaluation bar for now and just look for ideas on the board. That's what the players will be doing. And are you surprised by this rook trade? Yeah,
I'm very surprised, because what's the continuation? What's the point of this rook trade? I mean, I quite like the tension before that the two rooks had. Here, I mean, I'm just guessing that queen takes. Is there going to be something terrible happening after queen takes rook?
Did he have to play it? Because maybe one of the only issues I can see for white is the Ari pawns. If you can move both the A pawns back to their starting squares, I think white's advantage would be a lot greater. But having this pawn on the left-hand side of the board is attacked by black's bishop, so your rook is kind of a little bit tied down to defending that one, and I think that's one of the only advantages I can see Esipenko has here. Maybe that's why he did this exchange, possibly.
Maybe also, you know, I completely forgot about the left side of the board. I have to say, I was just so focused on the right, but I was also thinking maybe the black queen can actually get involved in the defence as well. Just plant herself on the f6 square, and then happy days, right? Queen is a good defender.
Yeah. Although maybe this pawn would be hanging. So, OK, we do see a trade of rooks. Meanwhile, black's queen has captured in the centre, white's knight stepping back. Actually, this pawn was up for grabs on the side of the board, defended by the black queen, but then white would capture, and I think maybe this would slightly favour white, because there are some threats. So instead, black jumping forward with the knight in this position, hitting the white queen, and look how Esipenko has centralised his queen. Very, very nice. A moment ago, Simon, you were saying, oh, the two white knights are jumping forward, maybe attacking. The white queen was an attacking piece. Now black is the one with a better knight.
Yeah, it does strike me, if you put the pawn on a4, like I say, back on a2, you could even go for a queen exchange here, and you'd have the ideal isolated pawn position. But just having this one pawn up the board, and these are the very small details that make all the difference at this level, is a major issue for white in the endings. That pawn is attacked by the bishop. You can't move your rook. Your rook is tied down, and maybe even saves Esipenko from a very difficult defensive job here.
Yeah, I do like this last move, though, from Erik Hansen, dropping his knight back. Black's knight was just too strong. And if we do see a trade here, then, as you mentioned, Simon, maybe the queens will come off the board, for example, and this position would be very, very pleasant for white, except this pawn being a target, meaning the white rook can't move. So, yeah, right now it looks very balanced, and we might be headed towards an endgame such as this one, where both sides will rush to get their king centralized, and most likely we'll reach a situation where neither side can make too much progress. OK, the queens are about to come off the board, most likely. I don't think black should really try and keep the queens on, because queen and knight work better as a combo than a queen and bishop. For example, if the black queen steps back, this knight is now just unchallenged. And white's queen, if it can somehow combine with the knight towards the black king later, might cause some nuisance. Then again, this is probably fine as well. I would just take the queens off, centralize the black king, though. And Esipenko as well, great endgame player, as we saw when he beat Magnus Carlsen in the prelims.
Both players down to ish 4 minutes on the clock. Erik Hansen is a fantastic speed player, right? And especially on online chess. How is Andrey Esipenko when it comes to these super fast time controls?
He's good, but maybe not as experienced as Erik in blitz and bullet time formats. So I think Erik would be very happy if this match went into tiebreaks. Esipenko actually played him at blitz recently, just a few months ago, and I won. We had a 2-game match. I won the first one. I was 2 moves away from checkmating him in the second one, and I lost on time. So he's good, but I think Erik maybe.
You did beat Esipenko, though. In the last time you played him a classical game.
Yeah.
We've got to get the shout out there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You nearly qualified for the candidates, you know.
That was
Don't
so
put yourself
close.
down. We were all cheering you on, weren't we? And like, come on, Dave, world champion, how?
Well, talk about David in over-the-board chess. Something very cool is coming up in, how long is it? Is it like a week?
1 week exactly.
Yeah.
We'll be playing a match against the Swedish #1, Niels Grandelius.
Yeah.
We're actually playing at the Swedish Embassy in London, which is pretty cool. And Simon, next to me, I think he might be commentating on some of the games.
Yeah.
With Askild.
With Askild, yeah, look really much. Yeah, looking
I
forward
look
to it.
so much forward to that. And it's going to be a long match as well.
10-game match.
Wow.
It's basically like the World Championship match, just with slightly lower-rated players. So
It's going to be so intense. 10-game match.
Yeah.
And it all starts in 1 week. And of course, you can follow all that action on Chess24 when it starts. It's going to be thrilling.
It is.
Yeah.
England against Sweden.
Yeah.
That's how they're marketing it. So, David,
I just need to
not
put
that
some
much
work in.
pressure.
I haven't studied enough lately. But we'll see. I'll try my best.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very cool.
I can recommend some chessball courses for you, if you'd like.
Yes, please, Simon.
Yeah, no, you know, there's the Harry Attack. I hear that's a really good chessball course that's just come out. So
You're telling Niels my preparation now.
he won't be watching, don't worry. So, but yeah, no, it'd be great to see you play over the board as well. So
Thank you. And meanwhile, the position has changed slightly. The queens have come off the board, and white has solidified. So white's pawn structure on the left side, it looks a bit loose, but it's all defended for now. And black's rook on a bit of an awkward square, defending the pawn next to it, that isolated pawn in the middle of the board. And I mean, talking of me playing over the board chess again, I think I pick white. I've had this type of position plenty of times throughout my career from those openings we mentioned, Simon, earlier. But
about you, Vanka? I mean, this is. I think I'd pick white as well. It looks like white can move the king in, as you say, and you know the bishop looks pretty bad. But
I would pick white as well. But then I'm an internal optimist, so I wouldn't be like massively unhappy if I'm playing black pieces.
yeah, it's probably should be a draw, but there's a lot of play left here, and the time's ticking down as well. I mean, they're both under 4 minutes, which is gonna bring more tension. Do you think one of them is more nervous? Erik mentioned he was very nervous yesterday, understandably. He doesn't really show his emotion. Esipenko, on the other hand, well, he's moving a lot more than Erik at the moment. I mean, Erik's like a statue there. God, Erik. But he moves about a lot, doesn't he? We're talking about players like habits sometimes that can put you off. And one of my I've got many personal hates, bitter old man I am, is having an opponent who bounces about when you're playing them. It can be quite off-putting, but okay, it doesn't matter for this match, of course. Both sides bring their kings in. Not much changing at the moment.
No, and one question I always ask myself in these types of positions is who would profit from a rook exchange, for example, if pieces do come off the board. And here, I think if rooks come off the board, it's just going to be a dead draw. I don't think white has... It maybe slightly favours white, but I don't think white has enough material left or enough weaknesses to probe at. Meanwhile, Esipenko trying to initiate some exchanges, maybe trying to activate the black bishop. There we go, black recaptures. White's knight parks itself in the centre now, so black's rook cannot go and grab a pawn because it's forced to stay defending its bishop. The bishop has to move, and white now will defend his c-pawn that is attacked by the black rook. There we go. White's rook stepping across. Maybe slightly favouring white this exchange, because black does have 2 isolated pawns now. White has no isolated pawns. Our friend Keith Arkle, the English Grandmaster, you mentioned it yesterday, pawn islands, he prefers having as few as possible. Then again,
More
black is
exchanges.
traded off.
Yeah, I think with that exchange there, it is certainly, well, more exchanges, more near a draw. Both sides are getting here. I mean, the white knight's still slightly better, so I'd take white here if I had to take one side without a shadow of a doubt. If white can activate his rook, then, there's play here.
Yeah.
And he's going for that plan.
And he's going for it, but I mean, I do think that black has a very good defensive square for the bishop, and you can see it's been played. But Eric is doing all the right moves, because here he defends his pawn from the side, and that just means that his rook is still active, still in the game, still lots to play for, actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm slightly surprised he defended it with his rook like this. I don't understand why he didn't bring his king in to defend that pawn first and then fully activate the white rook. I think it would have saved a move in the process, but...
Maybe more exchanges. Maybe black's going to push that pawn to challenge white's pawn that's just moved, and I mean, they're going to get exchanged off, aren't they, I feel here.
You see Harry, the h-pawn, moving up the board, Simon. You just want to get it off. You want to trade it. It's too scary.
Far too dangerous, that pawn.
And there we go.
There we go.
It happens. A potential trade.
Yeah.
And
Pawns
are disappearing. Everything's disappearing.
Yeah.
This one is heading towards a draw.
Yeah.
Well, the white king is centralising. That's always good news.
Yeah, again, you'd still rather be white.
Totally.
Slightly.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I'm finding really impressive by all the players, even though they're getting these equal positions, they're playing them on. They're not agreeing a draw, which I really like the fighting spirit they're showing. I think a lot of people would save energy, in other tournaments and agree a draw, but they're playing it out, which is great for us to see. And yeah, I mean, it probably will be a draw, but you can fight.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to see them fight it out for a long time, despite the fact it is the most likely result now. And actually, when Eric first burst onto the scene, over 10 years ago, I remember seeing a lot of his games, and I think he tries to kind of style himself as a really aggressive player, but most of his best wins were in these kind of technical endgames. Because he would just get in the flow, just put a bit of pressure on. I think sometimes his nerves do affect him. So in this position, there's no risk at all, which helps with nerves. And I think if he was maybe playing a lower-rated player, he would be very confident that he could press this one home with white. But
do you know who Eric's, in an interview I saw, his favourite player of all time is, or one of his players? But he said, who do you really appreciate? I think he mentioned his favourite player. I mean, could you guess?
Karpov?
Not Karpov, no. Ivanka?
Kasparov.
No, it was actually England's own Mickey Adams.
Wow.
He actually said he really appreciated England top player Mickey Adams, who plays like a spider. He controls the board and he creeps around and
spins his web.
Brilliant positional player. And Eric, you can see that in this kind of game, this guy they're playing. He is known as an aggressive player, but actually his favourite player is a very positional player and very well founded. So and he's now trying to get his king into the middle.
Right. I mean, this is like that move that you kind of mentioned. That's a real spider-like move, controlling the rook. And like you say, stepping the king into the middle. I know the computer says it's like dead on equal, but this is scary stuff for black.
Yeah, I mean, if I was black, I'd try to activate my rook. I mean, just bring it around the back if I can. We talked about the ending, and one of the most important things you've got to do in a rook ending is just bring your rook to the most active place you can. And I would bring it all the way into the corner, all the way into another corner, and then along. I mean, something like that is a way that I'd try to play this. There you go. The rook's come into the corner there. Just got to keep your pieces active in the ending. And I think this holds the balance just about here.
Yeah.
So it's not heating up quite.
Eric's trying to make it heat up, but Esipenko ice cold, just finding all these nice defensive.
Yeah.
Kind of
cold.
Very instructive defence by Esipenko.
Kind of lukewarm at the moment. Yeah, I guess. So
I think it's pretty exciting, actually, because I think it's quite instructive what both players are doing.
Definitely.
How white is slowly trying to nudge forward and black does not sit passively and is going to start attacking those pawns there on the right.
Yeah, and the reason this is probably quite a straightforward draw is just because black only has one weakness. There is a theory in chess that you need 2 2 weaknesses in your opponent's camp to attack. You need one to deflect your opponent's forces, and then you need to break through against one weakness. And here, if you look at Black's central pawn, it's isolated. That's the only weakness, but it is defended by Black's bishop. And it's just not enough for White. And also, White does have to be careful, as Jovanka mentioned, of what Black's rook now entering and attacking some pawns as well. So White locks down his own pawns, putting them on light squares. The same colour as the opponent's bishop, a bit risky maybe, but yeah, that just shows that Eric, I think, just wants to lock down this position. And yeah, a draw is still imminent, most likely.
This is game 2 between Eric Hansen and Andrey Esipenko in their quarterfinal match. Jan Nepomniachtchi and Vincent Keimer, they have started game 3. They are tied after 2 games. Magnus Carlsen and Liam Leh just started game 3. Magnus Carlsen is up by 1 point, and if he wins this game with the white pieces, he will already be ready for the semifinals. We will jump right into that game as soon as this one finishes. And yeah, I guess it's going to be a draw shortly, or will they keep fighting?
I think quite shortly now, because Black's done everything right. Look how active Black's rook has suddenly become, also pitting a pawn against the White king. Look how active the Black king is as well. I think now, as White, the time has come to just force a draw, just by, for example, starting with a check from the White knight, forcing the Black king back, retreating, and then I think we'll see a repetition of the position. There we go, a knight check, forcing the Black king back, and the draw is coming any moment now. This is the second time we've seen this position. If we see this position once more, it's a draw instantly.
Okay.
And nothing else to do with White. Black is just too active now.
Will Eric be happy with this? He is obviously the lowest ranked player in this quarterfinal match, tied after 2 games.
I think so. Remember, the Blitz is one of his home territories. And if we get to Blitz, I think it's almost 50-50. So, yeah, now 2 games down, 2 games to go. Eric can't be unhappy.
So Esipenko may be starting to stress a little bit when they go into game 3 and he will have the white pieces.
I think he's got to push in the next game because it's his last white before the blitz. So he maybe has to take a bit more risks than he would do normally. Eric's putting a great performance in, though. And even here, he's thinking, can I get any blood out of this stone? You can take the draw straight away, but he's still thinking, like, I want to fight, which is showing the right attitude, at least. As long as he doesn't think for another 2 minutes like that, then that would be the wrong attitude.
Yeah. The famous chess bra. Why chess bra?
Brothers, right? Chess
brothers?
Chess.
It's like slang. Bra. My bra.
Yeah, it's like the Canadian version of bro.
Ah, okay.
I thought it was actually to do with bras when I first heard it. And then I thought, that doesn't make any sense.
You were expecting some female chess players when you tuned into the chess bra.
Yeah, I thought it was, but I realised it's like bro, isn't it? It's, chess bro. So, yeah.
All right, well, our chess bro is thinking, and he is thinking about going into this draw, basically repeating the position, or to keep fighting. Is this sensible to just take a minute, think about it? I mean, he's spending his time now, so basically it's getting more and more relevant to take that draw, I guess.
Definitely. I think the risk involved with playing on now is just unreasonable for White. If you step back with a White king, for example, then the Black king will come in at some point and, OK, we are about to see the draw. Black's king is going to step back, and that's the 3rd time we've seen that position. It's game over. It is a draw, and we move on to game 3.
Yeah,